About 2 years ago, I found out that I had relatives from my grandma's side. Some relatives from Norway have tried to connect us all together through my heritage. She has a few relatives to move to America, one of them even starting a successful sewing company. But my lineage goes as far as back as the 1800s from Sweden. Some of my ancestors emigrated to America during the Norwegian Depression era before the oil industry made it what it is today. So this guy and his wife moved to America, settled in and started a family, and after their death, half of their kids stayed while the others moved back to Norway. To give you a time frame as how long ago this was, one of them even died from the Spanish flu. I got to know these 3 brothers from all of this. One of them moved to America as when elementary school started, while the 2 others moved back to Norway. You're probably wondering, how am I related to all of this? Well, they're cousins to my great-grandfather. I'm the 5th generation while they're the ones before me. I hope you can make any sense of this, because the longer I will go on, the harder we get to explain it. Family lineage is a rabbit hole that gets more and more complicated the further you go. It also comes as no shock that I have interest in the United States and I have interest in a country. Following on what's going on as an outsider, I've always wanted to go there, but that's never been a possibility. Until now. When 2 other brothers planned to meet the third one in America, that made my travel plans much easier. I had already planned to meet someone from the family reunion, but now I had the possibility to travel alongside someone else who could take me there directly. The full trip was going to be a stunning 3 weeks. That's the longest vacation I've ever had. That's also the first time I've ever left Europe as far as back as I can remember. Before that, I didn't have any thought process at all, so I don't really count that. I got driven to the airport in the afternoon, met my group, we booked our flight, and then we waited at the lounge. We took the SAS flight from Gardermoen to Copenhagen, and then we had to wait another couple of hours there in the lounge to wait for our next flight. Our route was through Greenland, which is the most amazing thing I've ever seen on a flight. The Atlantic seems so surreal to me, like it's not a bunch of floating ice in the ocean. I have been looking around for a while, and it was a great watch since it was about into the 6th hour into the flight anyways, and I had been watching screens all the time. We were gonna land in Chicago because there were no direct flights from Norway, and that's not an easy task because the flight by itself was 9 hours, and it's even worse to add another hour on top of that just to get there. There were a lot of planning necessary just to even get to that point. I had to send a request for a visa, and it was a 10-page form, and that's only before you even get there, which documentation won't be everything that you need to get in. You'll have to clarify where you're going, where you're gonna stay, who you're gonna meet, and you have to write down every name and every address you know. Like if you watched my previous video when I went to the Netherlands, I didn't need to talk to any guy at any booth at all, and I didn't need to show my passport either. Traveling around the EU, it's much easier when you live in the EU. It's much stricter to travel to America, and I have honestly no idea why. So these guys I'm traveling with are all on the older side. They have one unanimous problem. Hearing loss. One of them even has a speech impediment. So I tried to help out with the communications, but the security lady was never satisfied with what the information the others gave her. So she was just continuing to ask us the reason why we're traveling to the US, where we'll be going, where we'll be staying, who we'll meet, yada yada yada. It seems like she couldn't make any sense of this all connected family lineage thing and how we were all related to each other, and honestly I can't blame her. These guys are not uncles or anything close to that. They're distant relatives. There were also complications because this guy had an American passport, while his wife and I both had Norwegian passports. So eventually she just ended our conversation right there and then because she was behind on her lunch break. I guess the dawn saved the day for me there. But we were not done yet because we got redirected into a depressing looking waiting room. So at this point I feared the worst, that I would be put inside a cage as illegal immigrants are being put through when the country doesn't know what to do with them. But luckily I didn't need to do any of that. Phew, we only stayed there for around 30 minutes or so. It could have been way worse. Like way worse. We could have been there for hours. So this airport we were at was called the O'Hare Airport, located in Chicago, and we were gonna stay at the Hamilton Holiday Inn and Suites. We had some difficulties finding each other at the airport and also finding the right bus that would take us there. This was important because we had to match the right hotel. It took us way too long to find out where we should go, and because of that we wandered around aimlessly for over an hour. And I wish I had more control over the situation. But in the end we found the right lane, I got on the right bus, and then we're finally on track again. We were only staying for one night, and that's how I learned how we would roll for the rest of the trip. No pun intended. It seems I just traveled blind, but I knew our track. It's just much easier for me to get told as we go along, rather than the whole story from beginning to end. That's just how I am. Like, if I get told everything, the smaller details would just fall off entirely. Looking back at all the hotels, this is by far one of the best, if not, maybe even the best. I'm not gonna spoil the last hotel now, but it looked a lot nicer, but it had much worse food. And if I knew this was going to be the healthiest subpar food in the whole trip, I would have eaten that. But I chose the worst unhealthy food just because it was the first morning in America. It doesn't mean that I chose it away entirely, but I ate a smaller amount of it to get the remaining nutrients after eating a bowl of sugary cereal, waffles and bagels. Also, the hotel had the shittiest Wi-Fi out of them all. It would just barely work and just last for 5 minutes, and then I had to manually reconnect myself again. Okay, so I don't know how I got this all to work, but finally my episodes of Family Matters and Full House started downloading on streaming services. Why those exactly? Well, because they're geo-restricted. I can't watch them back at home in Norway. Entertainment is fun and all, but it should be better prepared and bought more beverages at the inn. Because we would not expect it, but this drive would be 10 hours. This would be a 10-hour drive. I know this was unexpected, but you should be prepared for the unexpected. So what did I have? I had a Baja Blast, planters, a crushed muffin, and an apple. But come on, you could just pull over at a gas station, right? Well, in a group setting, everybody has to agree with you, and it's their way or the highway. And they were dead set on arriving at a relative's house before sunset. Now, this wasn't any tour bus. We actually took the same bus that took us to the hotel in the first place, and we were going back to where we came from to get to the rental car service. We did get back to the airport and took the monorail to the rental car place, followed in our papers and got to our car, which is a 2017 Chevy Tahoe. It was big, it was massive, and it sure as hell felt comfortable. It suited well for our longer trips. The seats were so big that I sat in lotus position, which is how I sat on my gaming chair back at home. You definitely feel small. Now we were on our way, right? Right? Something happened. Technology happened. Now they have bought a GPS and they thought the cable didn't fit the car because it was USB-A and every port in the car was USB-C. But they eventually found out that there was one port for USB-A between the front row seats. They used an hour on this, and before then they were looking for cables and adapters. And then they couldn't find the right address, so they had to resort to using a more general one so we could at least get on the road. Now, to give them some slack, they are old and they type slowly. But America is big, and it's not just big, it's fucking big. Addresses in the United States are written very differently from how we're used to, and there's much more landmass to go off of. And there were several instances where we passed the road we were going to just because there were several other roads in the road before then. What we ended up doing was just to tell him to go now, because it was made too awfully clear and it couldn't hear the GPS anyway. There were also these abrupt turns which made my heart shoot off my throat. We were way behind on our schedule and we were supposed to pick up that American brother at another part of the airport. He was very upset and I can fully understand why. We did park at a roadside dining place and grocery store that had a Dunkin' Donuts and a Popeyes. Me, being me of course, I tried everything that I could. The coffee was great, so I'll always recommend that you stay the hell out away from hotel coffee and go outside and get your own darn coffee when traveling in America. I ordered some chicken tenders, but I said, I'm sorry man, but this ain't spicy. So I got another one. The supervisor said that I even could get a third one if I still wasn't satisfied. So I said thank you so much, though I still wouldn't buy them anymore after getting so much more than I originally asked for. First mistake of many. I rushed to throw out my trash. Idiot didn't even think where he threw it in. I threw garbage in a mailbox. God damn it, and I couldn't just take it out again because it was a slide-in tray. I couldn't just reach in my arm and take it out again. Forgive me please, because there is trash cans with this exact mechanism too. We were going to a graveyard to see the gravestone of one of our ancestors. We had a map and everything, and even then we still had no idea where to go. I thought, well, this is my life now. Finally, after much thinking, the guy who planned our trip finally found out where we were and which direction where to go on a map, because we had none of that to go off of. When he found it, we looked at it, took some pictures, and right next to it there was a gravestone with a small flag on it. Well, I had this great idea. Let me just take it out, place it, and put it back after I'm done with it. I broke it! And it was from a World War I veteran. I felt so bad. The small flag was just a thin wooden stick and I underestimated the hardness of the ground as well as the rigidness of the flag. It had probably been there a while before. But I wish I had the chance to replace that. I tried to make it not so obvious at least. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry. It was an accident, I didn't mean to break anything, and if it looked like I had vandalized the place, that was never my intention. After that, we visited some more American relatives which we had difficulties finding the place because it was hidden deep within the forest somewhere. So even though the dinner got cold when we got there, it was still a great visit and they were very generous to us.
They got everybody bring your hot rod, so I drove this.
What do you got here?
30 Chevy.
Yep. Sitting up there.
Yep.
Wow.
If you had guessed we had difficulties finding our Airbnb at night, then you would be right. So I wish we could have just stayed there for the night instead of dealing with that. Throughout our trip we saw a lot of yellow school buses, which to Americans isn't all that very surprising, but to us outsiders it's a very iconic thing. Like why would a crank a stop sign coming off from the side? I guess its purpose is for when lanes so kids are crossing the road. Well, I guess we have it even worse back at home because we have warning signs. Please slow down, alive children on dead silent roads. I tried to get a good shot of the eagles I saw if it even was what it was, but I'm not a professional bird watcher, I'm just a guy who's loading a DJI camera from time to time. We traveled from Norway to Copenhagen, landed in Chicago, and drove through Ohio to Erie, Pennsylvania. Not only did I stay awake during all of day one, I had to get used to the time zone differences, which was 6 hours. But don't you think I would be any tired? No, not actually. Not at all. But as soon as I found out we were going to stay still for 3 days, that's when my body took the chance to completely paralyze me. During 24 hours, I slept for like 12 to 16 hours, watched streaming services for 2 hours with cookie dough ice cream and Dr. Pepper. And that was late at night to early in the morning, and I barely ate anything. The landlord had Max and Paramount Plus, so that's why I took the chance to watch South Park before it was available to access back in Norway. Which is stupid, because some of them were already a year old at that point, and they didn't come out until the next year to us. When I walked down the stairs, I got cheered on like I ran a fucking marathon or something. Yeehaw. Yeehaw. That day we drove to a place called Presque State Park. I was going to throw something in the trash can but couldn't figure out how to open it. I got help from a couple and they told me they were built that way to prevent raccoons from going inside. We should have that too for the crows! At the other side of the park, apparently some Jehovah's Witnesses had some kind of fair. They had some stands where they served tea, coffee, and probably Kool-Aid. My group stayed far away while I just crossed past them without making any eye contact. That way I could avoid having any conversations with them. Before we left, we also started having some kind of running competition. It's a nice place for sure, and it's surprisingly exotic. Like, look at that beach. Other than that, there's maps, history signs, and a lighthouse. It's pretty much a tourist attraction all the way through because that lighthouse looks like it's been abandoned for a long time. I didn't go up the tower as I just followed my group, and they didn't find it worth it to pay the $3 for it. Wait, $3? I remember it costing more than that. There were a gift shop too. Of course they had some knickknacks that I didn't care too much about, but it had this cool t-shirt with a map of the place on it. Oh boy, American grocery stores. They're beyond supermarkets, they're like omega markets, and they're everywhere. Like, do you need so much groceries? Like, you can never run out even if you pick something new every day, I'm sure of it. One of the things on my bucket list for the America trip is to get a Super Nintendo. Why? Because I'm a retro video game collector with a sizable video game collection with a variety of retro game consoles. Well, you're probably like, well, I'm pretty sure you could just get one back at home, it will be much easier on the luggage without it. But what you might not know is that America has its own exclusive variant. That's why I never got one before now, because this is the model that I've always wanted. It's funny though, because it's unanimously agreed upon that this is the ugliest model of them all, yet I fully disagree. Like, it's the coolest one of them all. Have you seen this purple finish before? Nice.
Yes. Let me see. I might have to get a different box for this one. Here, I'll hold it up for you, Vinny. Yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Oh no!
It's overpriced to hell, but at least it's in good condition, and it was tested and in full working order. It didn't even work! So I had to come back the next day and they had to repair it on the spot, and repairing it isn't over exaggeration because all they did was to replace the motherboard. The motherboard came from a beaten up, yellowed Super Nintendo with a broken shell. What a coincidence! Guess what? The controller didn't work. Guess what again? I didn't think the test did! That's it. 2 times is enough, and we were gonna leave the next day regardless. But it's fine, I'm probably going to visit another retro game store anyway. This repair was going to take a while, so we agreed upon that they would continue to meet a relative at a diner, and then I would be staying at the game store. And then after that we would drive to Tops. Now what the hell is Tops? Well, Tops is a grocery store chain, and it's actually not a regional thing. There is 2 other stores in America. It is also in New York and Vermont. Okay, so I filmed around everywhere like I always do, but this time an employee asked what the hell I was doing. I was just thinking that I fall into a Karen situation, so I was just trying to explain myself to the best of my abilities in the best possible light. So what I explained to her was that I'm a tourist and I'm at awe at the size of these supermarkets. That's why I'm filming around. Surprisingly, she gave me permission since she's an employee there, but she was paying a watchful eye on me. The reason why she was acting this way is that she thought that I was from a rival store, so I could take pictures and document their prices and then outperform them. I don't know what to think. Like, in my head it makes sense, it sounds reasonable, but isn't there any easier way to do it nowadays? But right now I'm thinking like, really? She's concerned about this? She should be worried about influencers contaminating food with bug spray and then licking Häagen-Dazs and putting them back in the freezer aisle. Like, that's something to be worried about. Yeah, and comparing prices, can't you just look it up online? Before leaving Pennsylvania, I was thinking, well, this is a very typical American home, so I should maybe just document everything that's out of the ordinary to us, but that is mundane to Americans. Things like round doorknobs, thin light switches, and handles that we put on toilets now, I guess. And I also went down this creepy looking cellar, and it turned out to be a man cave with bar pool tables and foosball tables. They had a state flag, as one does, and it had a map of America.
Shut your mouth, bitch!
You shut your mouth, you dumb fucking asshole!
People learn to lay off the Pabst Blue Ribbon.
After delaying our departure a bit, I was a bit to blame in this as well. We were headed to Upstate New York. Apparently, we were supposed to give out the DNA kit to the relatives we visited earlier, but we forgot about it, so we delivered it to the USPS station and mailed it to them. While waiting, I got the chance to film their delivery cars, and there was this squirrel on it 3 feet away from me. They're not shy there, and that's unheard of back home. I saw flags hung up at every light post. I didn't truly find out the reason behind it, but I think it had something to do with the state governor election. I saw exactly that in other states, so maybe it's a similar thing. Well, we didn't walk around the field, but we went to the gift shop at least. I could tell the others had more of an interest. I don't know real about that myself. On our way, we had to fill gas, so we stopped by an
Native
Indian
American!
reserve. Again, the rest of the group was shocked by the gas prices, so much that they had to take pictures of it. Well, I didn't get it. Maybe I didn't calculate the conversion rate right, because to me it looked pretty normal. Eventually, we stopped to take a break near the road. I opened up a pack of Reese's cookies and a bunch of seagulls kept swarming me, so I ran back to the car. I shooed them away and they didn't bother me anymore after that. I guess the smell of a newly opened pack of cookies is what caused this.
Not much. I'm just with them. I'm not too alcoholic.
Don't stop moving. You're still going strong, so you're good to go. Talk to my neighbors, people heard.
Niagara Falls. So far we've only been driving around and being on the road. Well, that's the American experience. We haven't seen any historical buildings or monuments. Until now. Niagara Falls. While we could take a much more direct route to Minnesota, we deliberately planned a much longer route to be able to see the waterfalls for ourselves. So yeah, this was not very much targeted towards me as a single guy traveling around in America. It's very much directed at couples, I've heard. But I was kinda wrong, because when I was there, I saw it as a major tourist attraction in general. It is a natural beauty, regardless of your life situation. And I've learned as well that this is a tourist trap, very much like the Eiffel Tower was when I was in Paris 2 months before. While you can walk around and you can go pretty far, there is certain spots that is barricaded behind a paywall. While the fee wasn't insane or anything, we weren't planning to be there long enough to justify the purchase. Now Axel, the oldest brother, decided to stay back in the car. He has never experienced Niagara Falls before, yet he's American. It wasn't even his first chance to be there. He had been in Niagara Falls before, yet he chose to stay at a strip club. Even though traveling alongside others is stressful in itself, just being there gave me a sense of relaxation. I was having a mild headache from before, but the high air humidity, the fast flowing water, and the white noise made me feel relaxed. I tried to replicate my experience better by showing more relaxed music and slower editing. It rained at the beginning, which is funny because it was the only time it rained throughout the whole trip, while in Norway, that happens like every other day.
No.
At this point in our timeline, we left our Airbnb at Erie, Pennsylvania and drove up to Buffalo and then Niagara Falls. After that, we crossed the US-Canada border and then drove past London, driving through Sarnia and crossing the US-Canada border again in Port Huron. Now remember, every time we were gonna go somewhere, we had to document it, but since we weren't going to stay in Canada, we were allowed to cross the border, but we weren't allowed to leave our car. So I have been in Canada, but I never set foot in Canada.
shit. Here. Well, American. This is
After crossing the border, we were at Port Huron in Michigan, and the first thing we did was to go to Wendy's. Maybe since we arrived at closing times, maybe that's an excuse, but it was not living up to my expectations. And maybe this wasn't the right one to go to, it was a small one near the road, but at least the staff were nice. I thought I ordered something very vanilla, like a classic meal or something, but now I'm not that sure anymore. But looking again at the menu in post, they don't even have that. And this has become quite a while ago, but knowing myself, I would have probably ordered the ghost pepper chicken ranch combo. And it's not easy to see because I can't even look what it is by looking at the footage. Regardless of what I ordered, you can look at the footage to see just how sad and pathetic it looked. Like, in my thought process, when you go to Italy, you get the best Italian food. When you go to France, you get the best French food. When you go to America, I would assume the American food would be best. But it's actually better back at home. I thought that, well, no, we can't have Wendy's back at home. We just wouldn't get the full American experience. Well then, this is the American experience right here. This was not just another fast food chain that I would go to by curiosity alone. This was actually recommended to me from before. I know American fast food has a bad reputation, but you gotta go to Wendy's. I'm looking at you, Aaron from Game Grumps. Fuck you. I will have this exact opposite experience as well, which is why I recommend that you always try for yourself before listening to others. If it's a place with a historical bad reputation, or even a good one, things can always change. Axel tried to order something more nutritious, which I thought sounded like a good pick. He chose a baked potato. He also ordered coffee, but we arrived at like 9 or 10 p.m. Even though he ordered a medium-sized cup, they still gave him a large one so they could empty out the rest of what they had. He said it tasted terrible, but no shit, it had probably been there for a while. He didn't drink much of it, it was simply too much. I swear, the cashier had to be deliberately looking like the Wendy's girl. Brown-haired pigtails with freckles on her chin. Before leaving, I ordered 2 Cinnabons. They were packaged in airtight cups so they stayed fresh by the next 2 days. I used them as travel snacks. We drove to another motel and will continue our trip the next day.
Stop and enjoy a big boy, and now with that hamburger treat. The national favorite coast to coast, so stop and enjoy a big boy.
Menominee, another place we only stayed for the night. At the evening, I took another walk, and this was the second time I shared a hotel room with Axel. He asked, "Where are you going?" I replied with, "I'm just gonna take a walk." And then he said, "Oh, I thought we were gonna get dope or something." God damn it, Axel! When I walked through town, I passed a Little Caesars. That's the only pizza place that still has a mascot. Maybe another time. We didn't check it out in America, sadly. It was full swing already with Halloween decorations. It had to be the most active town yet, and it was even a month before Halloween even had started. So there I was, walking through an empty road, not knowing what to do. So I walked to Dollar General and bought a Hot Pocket to try out, because the hotel room had a microwave. Great story, game over. A video rental store. That would be cool to check out. The problem is, it wasn't still running. Except for lease, so no. Actually, it wasn't the only video rental store we had seen throughout the trip, though the other one was for XXX rated material. We were on our way to Green Bay, Wisconsin, and we traveled up to Mackinaw City. Now this place stood out from the rest, and probably very intentional because it was a big tourist site. It is the northwest town in Michigan, and it has an access point for ferries that can take you to a place called Mackinac Island. Though I was more intrigued by a place called Beaver Island. According to Wikipedia, it has a population of only 616. Oh, congratulations, 617! Besides being the place where the beavers live, apparently, it's the place where the Mormons took challenges and experiments dictated by the King of Mormons. I don't think in a million years I would have convinced the rest of the group of going there. Well, there's always Pancake Island and Cockburn Island for next time. Being in Mackinaw City, I was only there for the night, but I took my daily walk to keep my exercise routine going. And it's also a good way to explore. I usually walk near the road in a straight line back and forth once I'm in unfamiliar territory. The town wasn't actually that big. I think I walked through it all in like 10 to 15 minutes. I walked back and decided to check out this arcade I found. Out of all the places to have one, this was unexpected. Well, it's much of an arcade as a YouTuber's arcade one-up collection, but I'm still able to enjoy myself if it's a place with legit licenses and not just coin pushers. Or like these fucking keyhole games or arcade games based on smartphone games like Subway Surfers. Fucking Subway Surfers. I played Cruising Blast based on a Cruising USA series made by Nintendo, an actual arcade IP. But I also played Pac-Man's Pixel Blast, which is basically an arcade one-up machine. I was there at closing hours, which means I didn't get more than 30 minutes to an hour of playtime, but to me it's fine enough because of the slim pickings. I was also the only one there because the rest of the town was probably at the bar, so that's where I was headed next. My travel mates wanted to go to a place for drinks, so I guided them from the hotel back to where I was, the Dixie Saloon. I could tell this was a popular pub because they had a merch aisle with their logo on it. One of my crewmates even bought a snack bag cap. We arrived right at the end of a live performance, so the musician only played 2 songs before they started packing up. Everything was made out of wood. The walls, the tables, the chairs, even the chairs had horse saddles on them for aesthetic reasons. And we just got an endless supply of popcorn, round after round, every time we got finished. When we left Mackinac, we drove past Lake Michigan, so we stopped by to get some fresh air. We drove past some beachside, and this is where I think I remember meeting one hell of a character at a gas station we were at. There was this hillbilly with a gas pump in his one hand and a cigarette in the other, and he wasn't really standing still when doing so. He had already been talking to one of the brothers beforehand, so I was just trying to listen in, trying to understand and get the context of what the hell was going on. He pointed at his car and claimed he had bullet holes from a gang that was after him. He also said he had been hiding in a cellar for months. He had been working as a police officer before, so that's where it was a lust for revenge on him. Now hear me out. Now this is the reason why I love traveling to America, so I can meet up with crazy individuals with insane backstories as this. Sault Ste. Marie. Or, wait, maybe I should look this up.
Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan.
Still in Michigan State, I forgot what the town was called until I found my Bigfoot keychain. Luckily, it had a name with a town on it. But why is Bigfoot such a thing in Michigan? Again, maybe it's for tourists, but it's actually all around the country, unlike the Loch Ness Monster, which is only in one specific place. The only thing that I can think of when it comes to Sasquatch is the Goofy movie. The town has a small park that you can walk around in with a fountain in the middle. I lived down at the edge of it, mostly because I had to get another headache, but also just to lay down and relax with the white noise, the clean air, and the strong, warm, sunny fall heat. There was also the usual science to read and the statues to watch. The metal signs they have actually remind me of something you see on old vintage furnaces. And then there's the Japanese Torii, no explanation why it was there. Maybe it was just because it was cool. And there was a lot of gift shops which only sold knickknacks. The only thing that I got was this keychain, because I'm not a collector of small things, I'm a collector of big things. What these gift shops usually have are Bigfoot merch, incenses, and mugs, for example. We went to Pizza Hut, and I can't say try it because I've already done that while being in the Czech Republic, though it's the first time actually visiting one of the restaurants. It was completely empty, no visitors. I think we went too early. Our pizzas were good, but the main reason we actually went there was because one of our crewmates had celiac disease and she wanted to get an actual meal this time. So she had a gluten allergy and it was a reoccurring problem throughout our trip. None of the hotels had any gluten-friendly options, and also only half the restaurants could switch out regular bread to gluten-free bread. Most of the time she just ordered the meal without the bread. I recommended Pizza Hut specifically because their brand themselves as having gluten-friendly options on all the pizzas they have. So you can only imagine the opportunity she gets to eat an actual pizza instead of fruits, salads, or even potato chips at worst. We got her 2 regular pizzas quickly, but she had to wait until we were pretty much done until she could get hers. The staff was gone. Where the hell is she? She took a smoke break at the back with another employee I've never even seen before. After I found her, I asked, what's the deal? What's the holdup? And she said she had to take a longer time to prevent contaminating the food for the gluten. Okay, it makes sense, but it clearly looked like she was in a bad position right there. Maybe when I asked her, the only thing she could do was to wait that the pizzas would get ready. I guess. before we entered Minnesota, we went to an A&W. I didn't know A&W was a chain, I just knew them for the canned root beer, which is exactly what it shows that on tap, and I swear it tasted much better at the restaurant than elsewhere. And there was this guy who drove up and ordered 2 gallons of root beer, just casually asked for 2 gallons of root beer please. So the employee was just like, here you go, and then he carried them one in each hand and went to his car. Only in America, folks. Minnesota. Minnesota. The rest of the group were going to Mount Rushmore, and even though that would be sick, I had plans to stay at a relative's house, which I met through one of the family gatherings. I think that if I really wanted, I could have changed plans, but it was also nice to stop being on the road at all times and take a break from that, and also to relax and also to explore America more. You know, not just always from the highway, but to be able to go places, explore more, and do things. Meet Nick! To me, without directly insulting the guy, I know that you're watching, Nick. Seems like the hipster type. I was originally going to call him a zesty type, but when double checking can mean something completely different from how I perceived it as. He has a good taste in alcohol, he likes whiskey, and he asks for a lager when it's at a pub. He wears a beanie, and he vapes. Probably vapes. Though I'm not too fully sure on that. He probably has some knowledge when ordering coffee at a coffee shop, like a latte macchiato instead of just filtered coffee. But he also has this insane rack of semi-automatic machine guns. He even has a grenade for crying out loud. And he also has a huge stash of homegrown. I don't think he needs to order any more anytime soon. Suffice to say, I got a bit bothered by it. But that was because it's illegal over here, but totally legal over there. But he promised me not to smoke when I was there, at least. But yeah, real nice guy for letting me stay at his place for the week. He will be showing me around the state, and I can actually include some audio footage. And I don't need to blur out his face either, though I didn't know that until later. And he actually had a Super Nintendo. He had set it up with a CRT TV on the shelf in my room. I played from time to time in small bursts when he was busy at his home office. He didn't take any vacation himself.
Does it get cold like Minnesota? Cold like Minnesota.
It's basically set up the same as Marines. It's a Marine Corps kind of style. The light, red dot, like $400.
Yeah, wow.
So this is just like very basic, cheap, super cheap AR-15, but I mean it works just fine. Even though it was super cheap, it, you know, never had any problems. And the scope is forward, so you just keep your eye out. You keep both eyes open. You can see right through it. You know, like for hunting in the woods, you're gonna deer hunt in the woods, or any big animal. This will kill anything in North America. But it didn't look like this when I bought it. When I bought it, it was all wood.
Oh.
And I took all the wood off.
Yeah.
And I upgraded it. So this is just this is the Serbian military standard issue AK-47. Cannot have that be automatic, but you know, if you found an old one, if you found one made in like the 80s,
yeah,
that's what it's sold for. You know, this is for like rabbits. You know, you hunt rabbits with it.
Yeah.
You know, it looks kind of fancy, but it's just a little. You know, you can't really hunt deer with this. You can hunt rabbits and squirrels and whatever.
Yeah.
It's for the woods. It's really small, so you don't hang it on trees.
Freedom bucket.
Freedom. Get yourself a fistful of freedom.
Yes. Oh, jeez.
It's a much bigger bullet.
Yeah.
The Russians just took that full-size rifle cartridge. So bullets have different colors on the tip. There's red, blue, black, and green.
Yeah.
Black is armor penetrating. It will actually go through armor.
Ooh.
Red is incendiary. Blue is tracer. And green is... This has a steel penetrator in it. So it's not armor piercing, but it will go through things and keep flying straight.
What the hell? You can't run, huh? Oh, you can kind of float through the air. Oh, I didn't know that. Do you ever watch your brother's YouTube channel?
Day 1 we went to the gun range. This is actually something that I talked with him about ever since I got to know him. Yeah, come to America, we can go to the gun range. Like, only at the very end did he question himself. Am I seriously giving out all my firearms to somebody I just met once before? Eh? But it all went well because you don't need to second guess me. He packed all of his guns and we drove 5 minutes away to the nearest gun range. We had to register on their website with our smartphones. Nothing stopped us from just skipping all the information altogether, but this is gun safety, so I made sure to read and reread all the details and made sure that I was a bit prepared for this. Regardless, Nick instructed me on what to do, but it was still hard to hear what he had to say with air protection and all the gunshots echoing all around the room. I knew firearms would be loud, but I was still shocked how loud and abrupt it was. We had to take our air protection on, go for a push door, wait for that to close, and then open a second door to the range. Both doors shouldn't be open around the same time to prevent from noise from leaving the gun range. Reloading the guns was a bit finicky, but the protection mechanism was way too easy. It was just one push of a button. I will boldly state that it's harder to start a lighter than a semi-automatic. I tried with a Glock 20, an AK-47, and I didn't know this, but somebody else told me that the third weapon would be an MP5. I know what an MP5 looks like, but it might be modified enough that I couldn't tell. Nick told me about a friend of his, which was a Vietnam War veteran, and he really wanted to try the AK-47 because that's what the opposing side used. He thought it was much easier to use and much more lightweight compared to what they had.
That's great.
Good shot, kid. I think you got him. Good shot, kid. I think you got him.
Speeding all around, the naked 47 got the power in his bell to move any mother that gets in the way. Just another power machine on the freeway. Riding with me is my MC homeboy, knowing the rules ain't part of his program. Finding the right way around this map might be pretty hard cause he's fucked on crack. Cheap, Grand Theft Auto, you gotta make a mark and move where you want to. Deep, that determination to steal what you can and run from the nation. Hey, hey, what do you say? We automate a secret to speed from our getaway. Take it to the edge, there's nowhere to hide, and call up the boys. Let's go for the joyride. Let's go for a joyride. Stop the violence from the police, and what my dad used to say, but now he's deceased. He got caught in a jam, threw in the can when the cops were up and said he killed another man. Cheap knowledge was my main game, to figure out the law, to figure out the frame. Just when I thought I knew justice, I got my me said, you're just been busted. Don't fuck with me.
This was really fun. If I were an American citizen, this is totally something I would spend my weekends on. It sucked that the weapons weren't calibrated correctly though. And it's such a bad excuse too, like, the controller's not working, what the hell? But my aim was consistent, it was just not where it was supposed to be. It was slightly off. I was told that I would pass the policeman test because all 5 shots were in the ring at least. Okay, I understand as someone who isn't an American why I need guns, but why the hell would you need a fucking flamethrower or a turret? Please tell me! Could you take them to the gun range? I would bet that you would never get a license to be able to use them in your own backyard. You would have this crazy special permission way above any other weapon just to have it. But you could still buy it at the store for some reason. If you want to get rid of your grass, I have one tip for you. You could get a lawnmower instead of a flamethrower. Just saying.
Good thing Pebbles gives me yabba dabba doo.
After that, we would pick up his girlfriend and drive to a fancy restaurant called Red Cow. I would recommend it to try out cheese curds from someone back in Norway who had been in Minnesota before. It's a local Minnesotan dish. I didn't like the burger though. What kind of bad luck do I have with burgers in America? Back in Erie and also here, I ate toast, but I longed for something else than spongy bread. Usually back at home I eat something called crisp bread, not regular bread at all. But that's only a Scandinavian thing. But I'm in America and you can find everything you need in America. But also, I'm in the region in the state with the most Norwegians in it. So of course you can get Scandinavian food here. So we went to the nearest co-op. They had it Jarlsberg and Ski Queen brown cheese, and there it was. Vasa crisp bread. Months before, I'd sent some brown cheese and some crisp bread to Nick over mail before, so he liked it well enough to take some slices as well. I was not expecting this. He already had a cheese slicer. That's cool.
And so does he. Be in jail, Kamala Harris, for you.
The next day we went to the Sociable Cider Werks in Minneapolis. They had an event that day. I think there might have been a state fair since they had stands and food trucks. Nick ordered a lager, while I tried something more sweet. Rhubarb beer. I'm not a beer guy myself, but I always try what others recommended me. They also had pumpkin spiced beer, which was what I was originally going to order, but they sold out within the first week. I also went to an ice cream truck where I could choose 3 different toppings, but it ended up being more topping than ice cream. I chose both cookie dough and brownie dough, so I just ended up looking crazy in the end. They also had Fruity Pebbles. Why didn't I choose the Fruity Pebbles?
don't you wanna ride? Come on, let's take it outside. Nothing on the handlebar but the throttle. Your left foot is clutch, and your right foot brake. Then you reach down with your left hand to shift it.
Oh yeah, that's our national bird.
Mall of America. By the end of the week, we went to the Mall of America, which is the biggest mall in the whole country. And in Minnesota, of all places. Minnesota is a big state with more residents than all of Norway, but the reason why it's not in LA, for example, is because there's a higher demand for it due to harsh winters. I get a heat stroke in fall. What do you mean? If I get a heat stroke by fall, the winter cold should get here pretty quickly then. I'm really curious now how it would be there at winter times, because back in Norway, it can go all the way down to 14 to even 5 Fahrenheit. Nick got really surprised by hearing that. I like America very much, but I'm still a winter guy, and summer just gets too sweaty for me.
I'm not part of your society. I don't follow your fads and rules. The darkness that fills me is only pain, only pain, only pain, only pain.
We visited Hot Topic, which you can only find in America. I wanted to go there because of its historical and cultural impact. I don't have a huge wardrobe or anything, but this is so my taste, so I bought a bunch of t-shirts and pajamas. I looked at some cool pants too, but they were all too small for me. This is only something that I experienced at this store. They had cool goth piercings too, but I think those are for actual piercings. I don't want to alter my body permanently just for wearing that on and off temporarily. Piercings can be cool, but I'm not gonna wear it forever, you know? The only complaint that I have is that they tried to push me to sign up for their newsletter, even though I don't live in America. Like, you do realize that I can't come back, you know? And the same thing happened with the gun range too. We also went to the Nespresso store since Nick had a capsule machine, though he had ran out of coffee pods. Since this was the only Nespresso boutique around, that was our main excuse to go to the mall in the first place. They also had a big Lego store with huge Lego statues on display. That huge dragon specifically reminded me of Legoland in Denmark. I tried to look it up online, but the only thing I could find was the ride. And apparently they have one in Florida that I didn't know about. There's also this huge Nickelodeon themed amusement park with a Nickelodeon store. They even had a GameStop. We had difficulties finding it because the map gave us the wrong directions, but then I randomly saw it at the other side above us. Yeah, GameStop. I haven't been to one in like 6 years. After that, they stopped being in my country altogether. Nick thought that GameStop was and always has been an American-only game store chain. There's a lot of places to go eat. What will I choose? There's a Panda Express there, but I chose Hooters because of how iconic it is. Not because of anything else. I had been watching Comedy Man on YouTube a few years ago, explaining that Hooters was getting rid of the sex appeal and trying to make themselves as an established, legitimate brand. So I was a bit surprised to see that they didn't have removed any of that here. I thought it had become too taboo by this day and age. But what I didn't know was that they had become a sports bar, or at least that was the case with the one that was in at the mall.
Children eating here.
Children?
Yeah, look.
That's kind of bad. By the next day, we looked more around Minneapolis. The town square has several interconnected buildings, which is another sign of people going more inside at winter times there. Nick and I went to Starbucks since that's where his girlfriend worked, and I ordered an American-sized pumpkin spice latte since it was the season. We walked to the Minnesota Vikings football stadium. I already had my 2018 Buccaneers jersey. Nick asked, why not the Vikings then? But I explained to him that even in 2018, I did not know about my American relatives. I didn't even know that Norwegians emigrated there in the first place. Talk about knowing your history. But why the Buccaneers though? They aren't even close to being the best. Well, it was specifically because it was the last team Tom Brady was at before he retired.
I'm gonna pull it up.
Cool.
I bet you a donut. at the end.
At least not on Google Translate though.
That you, like when I was in Norway, I used to read menus and stuff.
Yeah.
Icelandic. It detected it as Icelandic, so it translated.
Okay.
Ah. Pride. Something pride. There's actually a very good view of the city from here, too.
We went to a place Nick used to buy used video games from his youth called Cheapo Records. At this point, I become well aware that I had minimal space left in my luggage. Not that I stopped with game hunting altogether, but I had to keep space in mind. I had ordered 2 Amazon packages with Nick's address containing an Angerfish CD and Virtual Boy accessories so I can finally assemble my Virtual Boy console. I saved up on a lot of money compared to direct delivery from America to Norway. What I ended up buying at Cheapo Records was a Ren and Stimpy DVD, Ferris Bueller's Day Off VHS, and then complete in box NES game. Just what I found was interesting enough.
Mr. Bean at a Whole Foods.
Okay.
Okay, and would you like to add a $1 donation to help hungry kids around the world?
Oh, no, that's okay.
Sorry?
I'm good.
I'm sorry, you don't want to give the $1 to hungry kids?
I found out from watching Good Mythical Morning that there's over 50 Ben & Jerry's flavors, so we deliberately went to Whole Foods. Nick thought that was sure the place to go to find most of that there. So in like a YouTube in a sense, kinda like the one you're watching right now, we bought way too much ice cream so I could taste test and try every kind of flavor I haven't tried before.
The Tonight Dough.
Churros. Weird. Pistachio. What is... I've never seen this.
Oh, they have fish food.
Yeah. Where?
Fish food? Jerry Garcia? Or Cherry Garcia, they call it.
Cherry Garcia, okay. Chipotle! I hinted this earlier. This is the place with the bad reputation. Is it gourmet? Hell no! Do they serve great Mexican food? Hell yeah! This would do so well in the European market because most Europeans eat taco every Friday. I don't know how or why, but it's a big thing over there. Chipotle is very similar to Subway structure-wise, but instead of sandwiches, they serve burritos and taco bowls. Something that immediately came to mind is that even though this is a Mexican-style restaurant, they don't serve hard-shell tacos. That has to be like the most iconic Mexican dish of all time. I guess this just doesn't work with this style of food preparation. Another complaint that I had was that it tasted like it was made for white people. No spices. But actually did find out they did have hot sauce, it just wasn't too entirely obvious where it was. I think it was around where the food trays and the cutlery were at. Nick thought it was very out of character for me to like spicy food, like that was very Norwegian-y on me. That was his exact phrasing too. He's right though, but chill claws and hot ones have getting more traction around here. And they served the Mexican Coke there, though I thought it had been debunked that it had just become the same as the American one by now. But all in all, I liked it a lot and I did not get any food poisoning.
If you're like other Americans, you love to eat Chipotle, but you hate all those terrible bloodstains in your underwear. Well, now there's a product that can clean even bloodstains caused by Chipotle right off your underwear. Chipotle away!
That product changed my life. It really works. I use it all the time. What?
If you're like other Americans, you love to eat Chipotle, but you hate all those terrible bloodstains in your underwear. Well, now there's a product that can clean even bloodstains caused by Chipotle right off your underwear. Chipotle away.
That product changed my life. It really works. I use it all the time.
What?
Nick said he needed to buy spider webs for Halloween decorations, so that would be an ample opportunity to get the real American experience and to go shopping at Menards. Menards? I've never heard of that store before. From all my experience of going there once, I feel like it's similar to something like Costco and Aldi's. So it's like a hardware store, though they sell a lot of different things as well. It's like a huge warehouse. When we found the Halloween decoration section, we found a lot of skeletons. Prop skeletons, 10 feet tall skeletons, animal skeletons, moving skeletons, real skeletons. No, I'm just kidding about that one. But something about it is just way too much. Again, America, big, way too much. Like, I get a lot of questions seeing that you can buy a 10 feet tall skeleton. Like, where do you keep it? There's only Halloween once a year. Where do you store it? Like, imagine if somebody pays you a visit and then they go to your basement and then lo and behold they see a 10 feet tall skeleton. And then they ask, what's that all about? And then you answer, well, yeah, that was last year's Halloween decorations. Like, do you really want to be in that situation? So yeah, there were a lot of skeletons. A lot of skeletons in general.
It has the best song of any store. You save big money. You save big money when you shop Menards. You hear the song?
Yeah, I heard it.
The only thing is, they don't have the kind of spider webs I want. All their spider webs light up. I want ones that look real.
This is mine. That's what I said. It's mine.
We looked for things to do in the last few days remaining, and Nick found some local concerts, and one of them surprised me. Ivy Lab. He asked, have you ever heard of Ivy Lab before? Yeah. That just came out of the blue for me. I haven't heard that name in close to a decade at this point. He said we weren't going there, but usually big events in Minneapolis happens at the First Avenue Theater. So since we were going to the same general area and had some time left on our hands, we decided to check it out from the outside. There were a bunch of celebrities all on the wall reading out the stars, and they had all been performing there before. Now, me recording back then versus me standing in front of you right now is miles apart. I can't remember any name, but if you look at the footage, you can see Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine, and Bo Diddley. One celebrity that stands out from the rest of the crowd has a gold star, and that is Prince. According to Nick, he started as a white star as anybody else, but then mysteriously somebody repainted him gold. To me, that sounds very much like an urban legend, like you have to be very precise to avoid painting over the text. And for what? It just seems a bit too unlikely for me. I liked the concert. I danced the Haku dance because that's the only thing that I know, and somebody recognized it. He told me he can do other moves, but he can't do it backwards like I can do. He has to think in reverse, which he just can't pull off. Even I can't do it really that good, but it's good enough to impress others, I guess, and Nick thought I fit in perfectly.
behind the vision of the film, so you're meeting someone very young in their career who's about to very special things. I'm sure you'll get back to it. Menominee is in the building. Shout out to Menominee. Shout out to Bayfront. Have a safe journey home. I will see you on my travels, please.
Before traveling, I was looking for retro game stores around the places we were gonna stay, and that's why I went to Bayfront Entertainment, but I couldn't really find any at Minneapolis or Minnesota. But it is in fact 3 different stores that sells retro video games in the state alone. So when I found out I had another chance to go more game hunting, I said yeah. We drove to the Southdale shopping center. Nick said it was a small local shopping center, but it didn't look that small to me. The main reason why we went there in the first place was to go to a retro game store called Gamerheadz, but it was closed. We had checked in advance. They weren't supposed to be open at this point. They were supposed to stay up 2 hours more, so they had closed early. What a shitty move. But since we were already at the mall, we looked at Kowalski's for some real cheese and looked around Dave & Buster's before we left. I hadn't heard of them before. They're an actual arcade chain that's still in business to this day. But we continued to plan B, which is Level Up Games. They were around eBay prices, but I found some heavy hitters that I really wanted to get, such as Mario RPG and Super Mario Kart. Those 2 games cost me $110, which is not the kind of money I would spend often, but I still have some disposable income left. Mario RPG was never released in Europe, so that's the perfect opportunity to utilize having the American model of the SNES. I've been playing it on and off during the making of this video. So it says it's open at Gamerheadz, the game store, and I don't think so. So we drove here for 40 minutes and it's yeah, it's already closed. So maybe you'll see how it's supposed to look like. You know, it looks cool, but it's yeah, not open. So that's about it.
I should look for PlayStation 2 games.
Back when I was traveling with the three brothers, going to Dairy Queen was one of the places I really wanted to go. This celiac chick wanted to get ice cream, so that's why I mentioned that earlier, but that's when we went to A&W instead. Nick had begun some coupons too, so that's why I saw it as the perfect opportunity. Nick is certain that when they made the Blizzard soft serve, that's when McDonald's straight up copied them with the McFlurry. You can't get this amount of knowledge and enthusiasm from any other person than an American. It might be my travel bias speaking, but I prefer the texture of the Blizzard compared to the McFlurry. The strawberry cheesecake Blizzard that I ordered had more finely crushed ice cream flakes and more grounded cheesecake chunks. This resulted in the ice cream being more brown tinted compared to McDonald's only vanilla flavor. I also bought a Dilly Bar, which is their classic ice cream on a stick. I put it in the freezer for later. I tried the Heath variant, which was okay, nothing special really, but I guess that's how the Dilly Bar is in general, right? Just regular vanilla and chocolate ice cream.
Sonic, America's Drive-In.
Here's the line for Sonic. Do you want to go in if we can to order?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can. Let's see.
Joy's done. Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy. Happy, happy, joy, joy, happy, happy, joy. Happy, 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 happy.
Yeah, that's brain damage.
Gophers versus Trojans college match. I tried to find a way to watch American sports live in person. I've been talking with Axel about it, but it didn't seem like there were any NFL games while I was traveling. But Nick's girlfriend hinted that it might be a college match we could catch, and surely enough, the Minnesota Golden Gophers versus the UFC Trojans were on. Prices were actually quite reasonable, being $50 for middle row seats. She also told us that we needed to wear specifically maroon and golden clothing to be able to fit in with the crowd. But how are we able to do that? Those are some very specific colors. What's the last time you wore maroon and gold? Maybe you could wear golden grills and gold chains during next Gophers game. I had a good excuse though. I was a tourist and I didn't pack any clothes specifically for this. We went to one specific Target that claimed they had Gophers merch, but the selection just weren't good enough. There were a lot in kid sizes, and the ones that fit were in the wrong colors. size or just looked flimsy. We agree that this ain't worth it. And it wasn't like I didn't want to buy football merch, but it should be comparable to their online store, which looked fine. The game was at the Huntington Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. When we came nearby the stadium, traffic stopped at a halt. Nick said, "I can't believe that many people are going to a Gophers match." He couldn't foresee what's yet to come. It's a good thing we came early, as it took us 30 minutes to just even get to the parking lot and another 30 minutes just to get a parking spot at the very top. And after the match, it took us over an hour just to get the hell away from the place. The driving speed was comparable to Dominator 2023. It was that bad, it took us over an hour just to break traffic. The stadium was huge, which at this point ain't too out of the ordinary for being in America. And we entered at the wrong side, so we had to cross the entire stadium before we could even watch the match. The Gophers and the Trojans were at each other the whole time, and never seemed obvious who would win, and I could never take a breather. But at the very end, the Gophers had won the match and the crowds went wild!
There were a couple weird things with it at launch, but
The Boot Barn. Before leaving Minnesota, we stopped by a western clothing shop called the Boot Barn. I was skeptical. This had to be a tourist trap, right? We had already been there once before, so I had the chance to ask Nick about this, and he said exactly what I had assumed. Minnesotans don't wear cowboy hats and boots. What they do usually wear are beanies and rain jackets meant for the colder and wet climates. Leather is more from the south. Though he had bought belts for his boots there before, they were the only ones who had something like that. The rest of the group liked the store though. The last remaining brother had bought boots with a star-spangled banner finish. If you wear them, everybody will know you've been in America. I browsed their hats and they look really cool, but when's the appropriate time to use them? And how am I gonna take it with me on the airplane ride back home? I can't wear this on an airplane, look how big it is!
Topo Chico?
No, no Topo Chico.
Topo Chico?
No, no Topo Chico.
up.
Just perfect.
IHOP. Nick had asked me, where's the last place I want to go eat? You know, like the Last Supper. I'm sorry. The one really big one left had to be IHOP. I ordered something crazy this time, feeling this would be the exception to not to try out the classic. Since I already know IHOP for being too unhealthy, I ordered strawberry cheesecake pancakes. And what I got was 5 layers of thick American pancakes with strawberry cheesecake cream, jam, powdered sugar, and strawberries on top. I couldn't even eat half of it, so I had to take the rest home in a doggy bag. Even though we were there at 8 p.m. in the evening, I asked for decaf coffee and I had that available. Nick told me at some point IHOP was 50% off for all children. Well, that's a good idea. Reel them in early for an unhealthy lifestyle. I want to say thanks to Nick again for staying at his place in Minnesota and for all his knowledge that made the video just that more interesting. I had a great time in America, but the trip was now reaching its end point. The trip was running its last course. The only thing left to do was to travel all the way back to the Chicago airport. But this time we took a much more direct route, making the trip back only last for another 2 days. So I reunited with the crew, though Axel stayed because, of course, he lives there, and the other brother had already left before us. And then we said goodbye to Nick and Axel, and of course we had some GPS problems, but eventually we were on our way once again. Finally, a Super Nintendo is in my collection, and I've been custom making and painting more shelves so I can finally be able to play classic Nintendo games. Finally, I've been able to start up my Virtual Boy, though it has a lens issue, and I hope somebody can fix that for me. The turbo stick for the TurboGrafx 16 is really good for shoot 'em ups, and the longer cable helps very well for my gaming setup. Though the Angry CD, it received a crack at the front on the fly back home, severely diminishing the value. Well, it still works and I can still say I have it in my collection. I filled my drawers with all the American candy I had gathered and had it for the rest of the year. So, what do I think of America? Well, I really enjoyed what it had to offer. 3 weeks was more than enough. It could be 2. By the end, the pacing started to really slow down. But even so, I would really like to go back there someday because America is such a huge continent, there's so much more to explore. And even though I went back to Norway, America has never left me. I still hear news from it all the time. I wish at some point to explore every single state. Compared to America, I feel like Norway is just a drop in the rain. I feel like I'm missing out, you know? America is a place with a vast amount of ridiculousness and notoriousness, but along the way I met a lot of interesting people. It's a place with a huge amount of diversity. You just can't get that in Norway, because what is exactly an American? It's hard to say, but America's inclusivity is exactly what I thought it would be. I was even told, sure, you're very much an American, you should totally move to America, you'll fit right in. And I know it's kinda out there to say it, but it's too boring in Norway. There's a lot more things happening in America, either good or bad. That's the reason why I like it. That's the reason why I'm so patriotic about it, even though I don't even live there. And that's the reason why I'll always discuss American news and never even know what even happens in the country I live in. Something I really like being in America was that I could talk about my interests, hobbies, and news and never had to explain it to them. I'm so integrated in American culture that I had to give a crash course to explain what it's all about. Never was I thought of as a tourist. Even though English is not even my native tongue, it still comes natural to me. All the media that I consume is in English, so it didn't feel like what it usually does when I'm traveling to a foreign country. I didn't need to rethink what I had to say, I didn't need to translate myself, I did not need to put on a fake non-American English accent. America is a superpower, and you can deny it all you want, but the rest of the world relies on it in order to function. Even if you think your country is entirely self-reliant, you're kind of suppressing reality. The United States is the most powerful country in the world, American politics changed the world, and we rely on having good connections with the rest of the world in order to have a stable society. America helped Norway to get it as rich as it has today by their knowledge in oil farming. They have also served as an ally to us during the war. From a point of poverty, Norway was in the Depression era, so they emigrated to the land of possibilities to live out the American dream. 200 years later, that is how I ended up in the United States, and I hope it won't be the last. Oh, one last thing, I held a secret from you during this entire video. I didn't get anything official, but I found a t-shirt printer at the Mall of America. So I have this. I fucking got it.
Thank you so much for playing my game.
The landlord had Max on HBO Plus. Oh man. Even though he ordered a medium-sized cup, he still got... Back to India. Addresses in the United States are written very differently from how we're used to, and there's much more landmass. Landmass. Yeah. I thought I could record for longer, but no. I'm sweaty. I'm sweaty. I'm sweaty. Okay, so this is the ice cream segment. These are six Ben & Jerry's flavors that we don't have back in Norway that I'm gonna try here in the US. So that's what we're gonna do. We have pistachio. We have cherry Garcia. We have cherry for churros. American Dream. Lights, camera, action. And the Tonight Dough. Also, if you see, this is 1 pint. That's interesting, at least. Oh man. There you go. That is definitely pistachios, and it's very creamy to be pistachio ice cream. Now this is Cherry Garcia, cherry ice cream with cherries and fudge flakes, and this is based on an artist that I can't really think of the name of right now.
Gary Garcia.
Gary
Garcia, I think.
Right, Gary Garcia. From the band The Grateful Dead, right? Yeah, so this is cherry ice cream with cherries and fudge flakes. So I wonder how that's gonna be. I'm gonna go right at it with the cherry part here. Looks interesting. That is real cherry pieces. I didn't expect that. Yeah, it kind of has a rum flavor. And this is Ben & Jerry's with churros. Mexican churros. Buttery cinnamon ice cream with churro pieces and the crunchy cinnamon rolls. Oh right, churro pieces. That's the churro parts. Right? There you go. So, about a few years ago, we had this Ben & Jerry's cinnamon roll flavor, but they stopped making them, and that was my favorite one. And this one tastes exactly like that, but I can't taste the churro pieces. I'm sorry, I just can't. And then we're at Lights, Camera, Action, directed by Ava DuVernay. I don't know who this person is. It's probably an American celebrity that I don't know about. And then this contains vanilla ice cream with salted caramel swirls, graham cracker swirls, and gobs of chocolate chip cookie dough. So there's a lot of different variants with these things already, so this probably won't be the most exciting flavor. There, but this one is very good regardless. It has that caramel flavor, it has that cinnamon flavor, it has cookie dough in it, and it's still not overly sweet. It has some dark tones to it regardless. And here is the Tonight Though, starring Jimmy Fallon. How did it get this license? It's such a weird license to me. Okay, so this is caramel and chocolate ice cream with chocolate cookie swirls and gobs of chocolate chip cookie dough and peanut butter cookie dough. That's a lot, just a lot all around. Right here. Yeah, this is too similar to Half Baked for me, which is Ben & Jerry's staple from before. So we don't really need this, but it's cool to have a celebrity license like Jimmy Fallon on it. And then on to the last one, we have Stephen Colbert's American Dream with vanilla ice cream with fudge covered waffle cone pieces and a caramel swirl. So waffle cone. I can't see any waffle. All right, this is probably, yeah, the chunks is probably the waffle part. So this looks like regular vanilla ice cream with some chunks and caramel. So yeah, I'm just gonna try this now before it melts all over. Yes, so this has some caramel taste and some really good waffle cone pieces. That's real crunchy. Alright, so for my picks, my favorite is the cherry for churros flavor. And besides that, I'll go with the Cherry Garcia as second place. And at third place, I'll pick the Stephen Colbert's American Dream. Right next to the pistachio flavor. At fourth place, then Lights, Camera, Action by Ava DuVernay. And at last place, I'll pick the Tonight Though with Jimmy Fallon. Not because it's bad or anything, it's just too basic for me. But all of these ice cream are still great, so I recommend them all, but these are my orders. So I just wanna tell you, I hope you liked this section of the video, and then we'll go through to the next part, whatever that is. So thank you, goodbye.